Hey, everybody. Welcome back. So, we put out a video yesterday, kind of ruffled some feathers. I expected it to, but there was a really important point there that we're driving home. And I actually had gotten one comment on it that I'd like to address. I think it really does a good job of tying this topic together um, in a fashion that may not be so offensive to some people. So, I'm not calling this guy out at all. They left his comment. It was a really pleasant exchange. We had a couple different ideas, things like that, very polite. But he did say one thing that I think maybe a lot of people may be thinking, and I think it deserves some clarification. And it's really simple. What he was saying is that explaining the merits of truth might not be the best way to help reptiles. And there's a lot to unpack in that statement because and going off using USARK as our foundation here, they work in the realm of politics. They work with state legislatures. They work with Congress. The people that make laws around our animals all the time. We're fighting these bad bans and things like that. And what is our first criticism when we go to a state legislature or FWC or something like that and address the bans that they're trying to put on us? The very first thing we do is there's something in that legislation that's not true and is not based in evidence. So what is USARK's job? Their job is to find the legislation, look at it, assess it, look at the evidence, determine what's true and what's false, and then get that information out to us so that we can all act on it. This whole process ties in with what I was talking about yesterday with you've got to look at your sources. You've got to look at the evidence because you can't go into something like a state legislature and fight a reptile ban with bad information. And, we count on that bad information being in those things to make it easier for us to stop it. Let's say, for instance, New York decides that they're going to put a ban on Burmese pythons because they're invasive. Now, I don't know what the laws are up there. There may already be a ban up there that they've gotten away with. But, say any state in a colder climate, they're like, well, we're going to put a ban on Burmese pythons because they're invasive. That's a claim, just like any of the other claims that we was talking about yesterday. But all you do is you go in and you take that claim, you pick it apart, you say, okay, yeah, Burmese are invasive to Florida. They're not going to be invasive to New York where the climate doesn't sustain them. And you've got to fact check and correct the people that are on that board or whoever you're talking to continually through that process. They say, well, if somebody lets that thing out and it gets out up here in New York, then it's invasive. It's not supposed to be here. Well, now you've got to go and educate these people on what an invasive species actually is. The establishment of a breeding population of animals detrimental to the ecosystem that's not native to that area. And my definition may be off a word or two or something like that, but that's the gist of it. So, you're using facts, you're using evidence to communicate to these people who are trying to take your rights to keep these animals away from you. The merits of truth should be clear to all of us because, every time the USARK alerts come out, that's what the truth and the evidence is what we lean on. And, that's just one example. There's any myriad of examples we can go over, but I want this to be kind of a quick video. But another consideration when we're talking about the merits of truth in reptile keeping, the merits of evidence, is in our relationship with other keepers. I sat in on a live stream today. I wasn't on it. I mean, I was watching. Kevin McCurley did a live stream earlier today, and he was really emphasizing the point of, supporting our fellow keepers and not ripping them apart. Having some kind of, way to triage who you decide to go after and who you don't decide to go after. Really important stuff that he was talking about. Um, and this all ties back in too, more so with a differentiation between opinions and facts. In the reptile community, there's no shortage of opinions on things, and there's all of this subjective stuff that it can be real easy for people that have got a hair trigger. The caps lock commandos, that are just so quick to rip somebody apart. I don't react. I don't spread any of that stuff unless I first put the effort into looking into it and finding out exactly what's going on. And some people have just got, like I said, they've got that hair trigger with that stuff, and everybody's looking for somebody to go after. And, there's, we talk about policing our community and things like that, but we also got to support the community. We got to support each other. And going off half cocked on somebody is never constructive. Never is. There's only 2 instances that I can think of off the top of my head where I've actually went after somebody, and they were both pretty disgusting. There was plenty of evidence there, and they both needed to be approached, but and that's over the course of a couple of years running the channel and stuff, and getting a ton of different people approaching me with things. And what I end up doing is, if it looks like something where the person really needs help, is I'll send them a message and I'll be like, hey man, somebody sent me this. Are you having problems? Or sometimes people will kick back. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. More often than not, when I've approached somebody on something like that, they're like, man, cool, I can't get a straight answer anywhere. Every time I go to ask somebody something in a chat group or something, I get lambasted, so I quit going in there. That's a big thing too, with just giving people grace when they're looking for evidence, when they're looking for what's true about their situation. If they're in a group, they're asking questions. They're asking questions because they don't know. They want to get better. Don't rip them apart for it. Politely say, hey, man, okay, I understand this is what you saw, but this isn't right. This isn't good. We need to fix this. This is what we need to do. More often than not, you're going to get a positive response from that. But anyway, the long and short of that whole thing is just that I wanted to answer that one question right there. And I just really emphasize that when I go into, like I did yesterday, these kind of deep discussions about reality and evidence and truth and the impacts that bad information can have on people, it is something that's very pertinent to the reptile industry. We all can be a model community that everybody else molds themselves off of. We can work together like this on this stuff. And, we can hold each other accountable while still being respectful. And we can hold ourselves accountable to making sure that we've got our facts straight before we start talking about stuff, putting out bad information, or, going after somebody else unfairly because we think we've got the right information and we don't. That's all stuff that we need to take into consideration, man. And we're close enough as a community where most everybody here, most like people that get on YouTube, like myself or anybody else, can, sit down and talk about stuff and things like that and have differences of opinions, and still be cordial. A lot of the country can't do that. It's, I'm not even going to go into that again. Like I said, the whole point being, the merits of truth affecting reptiles, to a great degree, it does. Us having a respect for reality, it impacts the reptile laws. It impacts our ability to help people. It impacts our ability to improve ourselves. It impacts the health of our animals. It impacts how well we can handle our animals, because One good thing about reptiles that I absolutely love is you're 100% honest when you're in a room with an 18-foot retic, or a 10-foot monitor lizard or something like that. The whole argument about whether something is evidently true or not goes right out the window, because if you don't accurately read that animal and you make a mistake, you can pay an immediate price for it. There's no argument. If you don't look for evidence and learn to recognize it, you will pay immediately with a big snake. If you're looking at it and you think it's friendly and it's just trying to come out and it's actually got an active food response, well, not appreciating the merits of truth and evidence in that situation hurts. If everything had that same dynamic, I think the conversation would be much easier to have. But wanted to touch on that really quick. I hope everybody can appreciate that. Kevin really kind of motivated me today when he was talking about needing to, really build up the community and stop cutting people down. And, one thing about this, guys, is that, we talk about being respectful and building everybody up and stuff like that. We've got to do that with the realization that not everybody is prepared to be that. You're going to get some antagonistic, some toxic people, some people that can't look at a topic honestly, some people that will, they're just out there to troll and fight and things like that. I have not a whole lot of patience. I've got a little bit for folks like that, but not as much as I would maybe like to have. But, just kind of keep that in mind too. We got to kind of choose our battles, but the merits of truth in our reptile industry, the reptile industry is going to live or die on truth and evidence. And anybody that's dealt with bad legislation before will tell you that, because that's what we fight. So you guys have an outstanding day, and I will see you next time on Intrepid Exotics.